Okay guys, hi, welcome and welcome to Unit 7. I hope everything's going well with you. First off, I want to apologize for the sound in this video. I think it's going to be a little bit muted. At least it's muted when I play it back here. I have a bunch of microphones that I use, but I work back and forth between two offices, and of course all the microphones are at my office at work. But I decided I'd make this anyway rather than wait until Tuesday. So turn the volume up. I hope this works out. Next video will have a little better sound. Okay, I'm going to talk about a couple topics here just to get us set up for week 7. I also want to talk for just a few minutes about focus groups, and I'm going to kind of lean into the camera so the sound is a little bit better. So let me say a few things about focus groups. I wasn't heavily involved in the discussion this week. It's not a discussion I typically jump into a lot. Some discussions I do jump into a lot, but this one I usually don't. In hindsight, I might have tried to offer a few things, but I appreciate some of the comments, especially people who really tried to go above and beyond and talk at length about some of the issues that they thought were going on with focus groups. Let me say a couple things about them. It's a very accessible method, meaning you can do really good focus groups even in a little more informal environment, and it often surprises me that we don't do more of these. If you work for an organization that has an annual convention, an annual conference, and you've got a bunch of people there at your conference, I think it's just a great idea to get them into a room and ask them questions and really listen. That's the key, is to really listen to what they're saying about issues of relevance to your organization. So I like focus groups, and if you have a chance to get involved in your organization with some focus groups, you should do so. This is how you acquire expertise in something like this, that you hang around a bit while they're doing some focus group research. You ask if you can get involved, and then maybe if you get a chance, you say, maybe could I moderate a group, and before you know it, you're the local expert on how to do focus groups in your organization. There are a bunch of good short books about focus groups. There's some good advice online. Some of the advice is fairly easy to remember, but there are a couple points I want to go over. So I really want to encourage you to try to use these. Focus groups also very much is in agreement with my philosophy of having a stance toward research. And what that means for me is that always be questioning what you're doing and always be open to opportunities to learn more. Even when you think you know a lot about your audience, your organization, your customers, or whatever. Having a stance toward research means that you always are open-minded toward trying to learn more about these groups, and so focus groups is consonant with that. Anyway, some advice that I find about focus groups that's important. I think 7 to 12 people is a good number. Less than 7, it becomes more of this sort of small group. But some people will run focus groups with fewer than 7 or more than 12 people. I also find that more than 12 people, it becomes hard for people to discuss. It becomes more like you're talking in front of a large group, and a lot of people have a fear of talking in front of a large group, whereas a group discussion is about 7 to 12. You will find focus group experts who run different numbers. I kind of disagree. Typically the group is homogeneous on some point. They're all similar in some regard. They're all voters, they're all smokers, they're all customers. Something about them is similar. And they almost always do not know each other. Rarely would I find a case where you bring in people who know each other. That creates a different dynamic. A lot of people now are experimenting with online focus groups. It's something you can think about. They're easy to do, they're cheap. In some respects, you lose that interaction. You lose some of the nonverbal communication that goes on in online focus groups, which can be all text or can be videotaped. And there's some debate about whether these really are focus groups or not. It's a debate we don't really get into. Finally, the moderator. You can do a pretty decent job as a moderator, but there are people who are really quite good at it. They're good at carefully directing the group towards the topics that you want to address. They're good at dealing with groups where there might be tension or argument, and so expert moderators really can make a difference, especially if you have situations where particular people take over a group, or when a group discussion gets heated, or at times perhaps when people aren't contributing really well to a focus group. Focus groups are good at addressing questions that are socially about ideas that are socially constructed. So everybody was pretty much on target with this, suggesting that open-ended questions are the best. That's correct. But topics where our decisions are socially constructed are really valuable here, such as voting, for example, right now, but also our preferences towards anything from movies to restaurants. So much of our life is socially constructed. You go to watch a movie with a bunch of friends and you hate the movie, and you leave the movie and all your friends say, wow, what a great movie. Well, your opinion about the movie has now been altered by the social situation within which you're in. You're perhaps less likely to say how much you hated it, and you listen to your friends and realize perhaps they saw good things in the movie that you had overlooked. Voting, likewise, is something socially constructed. One other quick point about this: in some fields, the entertainment field being one, but also in some fields of marketing, focus group research is really highly respected, and consequently, if you're working in those fields, that's the sort of evidence you often need to try to gather. It's a funny thing that in some fields, they're looking for numbers, survey evidence. In other fields, they're looking for focus groups and focus group comments. And I think political advertising is one. I think movie making is another, where they just look to the focus group method. And if you're working in those fields, if you're talking to those people, then you've got to go to those methods to get the data that you are looking for. Several of you talked about Goldman and McDonald, and their philosophy on focus groups differs from the text. This is an important point, and I'd like you to try to remember this. Goldman and McDonald say that what happens when you bring together a group of people is that a hierarchy forms, just like when you and your friends get together. Some people are more vocal, some people are less vocal. Some people are leaders, other people are followers. Some people help to create consensus, some people go against the grain. This is the nature of the group. And what Goldman and McDonald want to happen is this group arises, the leaders appear, the followers appear, etc. All that dynamic takes place. Now, in any group, there's some people who talk more than others. For Goldman and McDonald, in a focus group, some people will talk more than others. That's life. That's what they want. They want this recreation of the social hierarchies of our life to appear. That's the great asset of a focus group, according to Goldman and McDonald. It recreates this dynamic of our social lives. Okay. The book talks about focus groups more like group interviews, and I believe they use the term group interviews. So if you were moderating a focus group under the philosophy of the textbook, I think that you would be more careful to make certain that everybody spoke, to give everybody equal time to get their opinions. To Goldman and McDonald, this is less important. Now, they're certainly interested in being polite to everybody, so everybody feels they have a chance. Okay. But to them, there are certain people in life who dominate a conversation, and that will happen in a focus group, and that's the point. It recreates life, it recreates social structures. So they really come at this from a different philosophy. They also offer us a theoretical foundation for focus group research. And that is something that a lot of focus group researchers themselves don't have. They don't think about what's the underlying theory here. For Goldman and McDonald, it is recreating those social structures in our everyday life in the laboratory, and then seeing the data that arises from it. And that's why I offer that old reading. It's a little unusual. It's not talked about much, but I think it offers this unique perspective, and I'd like you to try to get that. We'll talk a little more this week about the type of data and evidence that we will get from focus groups. I'll try to give you an example of how you might interpret focus group data, because I didn't see a lot of discussion about that. Okay, so this week we're going to talk about qualitative methods, and we have a discussion of the techniques. Now, I'm going to go in right today, Monday, and try to offer some other questions, and the reason is that I think in looking at this question and thinking about past semesters, I think we end up repeating ourselves a bit much, and I know that can happen in some of these discussions. So I'll try to offer some other questions, and you can dive into those questions if you would like, just to give us some variety, to give us a little better discussion about qualitative methods. I ask you again next week, basically, what kind of methods appeal to you. So we'll talk about it a little bit next week. This week we continue with our final project. So you have a discussion this week. This is a required discussion. I will try to be heavily involved in the discussion throughout the week, offering comments as quickly as I can so that you can then respond and begin to build your project. Your assignment then is to turn in a proposal. I will grade this very quickly. I'm actually going to try and grade them as they come in. So I keep an eye on this assignment, and you should see them coming back to you fairly quickly. Please ask questions. I might very well do another video this week about how to put together this final project. It is important. It is a big part of your grade. You need to do well on it. A weak final project is going to hurt your final grade. The other thing is that you have a summary assignment this week. We have some videos which I've only begun posting in the last year or so, which I like a lot. And so a couple of them are a little long, but make your dinner and sit in front of the computer and watch them. This guy is very interesting. I think he's a pretty compelling and interesting speaker. And I like his approach. I think he explains things well. So we'll try to piggyback on his work. He is a scholar from the UK, from the United Kingdom. Okay, this is the last slide. I have to give you a word about deadlines. Every class is different. In some classes, there are issues that come up that don't come up in other classes. One of the issues that's come up in this class is several people, often the same people, just repeatedly missing deadlines. So everything late is going to be penalized at this point. Earlier in the semester, I had people who would give me very good reasons. They had problems or issues or health issues or out of town, and so they'd be a few days late. But we're sort of past that. You've got to get things in on time. I will get them back quickly. I'm already getting to the week 6 material today. But it's the same people again and again, and I cannot let this slide any longer. If you are missing assignments, you need to get back to me quickly and not get back to me at the end of week 8. They will be graded late, but they're holes, and I don't search you out. If you don't turn in something, I give you a 0 and I move on, and it's up to you to move to get in touch with me. Something else I'm going to tell you, and I'll talk about this next week, is that I'm happy to talk about short questions all the way up to the last deadline. But if you have big questions about your project, you have got to get in touch with me prior to the last weekend of this course. And I say this to you out of experience in dealing with lots of students and in trying to help students through things, that those students who come to me Sunday when their final project is due, if I try to help them, all we end up doing is confusing matters. You've got to get on your final project early. I'm happy to offer lots of advice. I'm happy to take quick looks at drafts, but you can't do it the last weekend. I'm answering short questions only. I will say this again next week. Finally, I'm answering email today. I'll probably finish up going through email by the time this video is posted. So if you've not heard from me or if you posed a question in any forum, please ping me again. Get back in touch. I answer all my email. A few things get lost here and there, so please track me down. I'm not ignoring anybody. Okay, I hope this offers a good introduction, get you started this week. Good luck, and I will see you online.